The warning. The war between the alien empires was growing fast. Planets were burning. Fleets were crashing. In the middle of this chaos, Commander Ziraxa stood on the bridge of her warship, the Vatarek. Her eyes were sharp. Her mind was proud. She had won many battles before, and she believed she would win again. But this time something was different. A human stood behind her, Commander Rain. He was not part of her people. He was not even part of the Empire. He was just a human advisor, given to her after a peace agreement. She did not like humans. She thought they were slow, soft, and too careful. But Rain never shouted. He never begged. He simply observed and spoke when needed. As Ziraxa prepared her fleet to enter Sector 9, a dangerous area of space, Rain quietly stepped forward. "You shouldn't go there," he said, his voice calm. "It's a trap." Ziraxa turned to him, her sharp teeth showing. "You think you know this better than me, human? I've fought 10 battles in Sector 9. I know every asteroid, every shadow." Rain looked at her calmly. "Yes, and that's why your enemy will use it against you. Because they know. You're proud." The room fell silent. Ziraxa's crew looked at each other nervously, but Ziraxa only laughed. "I will not take orders from a species that lost more wars than they won." Rain did not reply. He just gave her a small nod and stepped back. Ziraxa raised her hand. "Begin jump sequence. All ships, enter Sector 9. The fleet moved like shadows through space. They jumped into Sector 9 together. First, everything looked normal. Silence, darkness, empty stars. Then, suddenly, lights began to blink on their scanners, unknown signals. Rain narrowed his eyes. Here it comes. And then chaos began. From the black corners of Sector 9, strange energy waves hit the fleet. One ship exploded without warning. Another started spinning, its systems completely broken. The crew screamed over the radio. "Engines offline. We're trapped. They're jamming our comms." Rain stepped closer to the control screen. "They've created an energy net. You're stuck inside a battlefield you can't control." Ziraxa's eyes were wide, her jaw tight. "How?" Rain didn't smile. He didn't look proud. He just said, "I warned you." One of Ziraxa's best warships, the Kralkon, was caught in the middle. Fire burned through its side as it tried to escape the net. The pilot shouted through static, "We can't hold. Request permission to retreat." Ziraxa froze. She had never retreated before. But Rain leaned toward her and whispered, "Let them go. If you don't, they'll all die. Pride doesn't protect anyone." She didn't respond. Seconds later, the Kralkon exploded, taking 300 soldiers with it. The bridge went silent. Rain turned away, but not before saying, "That was the price of one mistake. There are more coming." Later that night, the remaining fleet floated just outside Sector 9, damaged and silent. Half their ships were gone. The rest were weak. Ziraxa sat alone in her command room. She was not used to silence. She was not used to loss. For the first time, doubt touched her mind. Rain entered quietly. He didn't salute. He just stood by the wall. "I didn't come to say, 'I told you so,'" he said. She looked at him coldly. "Then why did you come?" "To give you another warning." She laughed bitterly. "I don't need more of your soft words." Rain walked to the table and placed a data chip there. "Then don't listen to my words. Look at this." She stared at the chip. "What is it?" she asked. "It's proof that your enemy knew your plan days ago. Someone inside your council leaked it, and they're planning something bigger." Ziraxa's hand shook slightly. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "You're human." Rain's eyes were calm. "Because this war isn't just yours. If you fall, they come for us next. And because I've seen what happens when leaders refuse to listen. It always ends the same way. Alone, surrounded by smoke." Ziraxa looked away. For the first time in her life, she had no answer. But the war was not over. It had just begun. And this time, she wasn't the only one making choices. The fallout. Everything smelled like burning metal. The wounded warships of Xerax's fleet floated silently in space. Fire marks covered their hulls. Broken systems blinked weakly. The great alien empire that once roared with confidence now whispered in pain. Inside the Vatarek, Xeraxa stood frozen in front of the battlefield report. 7 ships gone. 3,000 warriors lost. No glory, no honor. And one human had warned her before it all happened. Behind her, the crew moved quietly, afraid to speak. No one blamed the human now. Everyone had seen what happened. The only one who still refused to admit the truth was Xeraxa. She clenched her fists. She wanted someone to blame. Anyone except herself. "Commander," said her second-in-command, a tall alien named Rael. "What are your orders?" She didn't reply. From the side of the room, Commander Rain spoke softly. "Now is not the time for silence. Your soldiers are scared. You need to lead them." Xeraxa turned sharply. "You think I don't know how to lead?" Rain didn't flinch. "Leadership is not shouting. It's accepting when you're wrong, and then making things right." Xeraxa stared at him for a long moment. Then she walked away. Hours later, in the medical bay, dozens of injured soldiers lay on metal beds. Some had burns. Others had lost limbs. A few stared into nothing, their minds broken from fear. Rain walked among them. He didn't say much. He just nodded to each one, listened to short stories. One soldier whispered, "Why didn't she listen to you?" Rain paused. Then he said, "Because sometimes people confuse strength with pride. But they're not the same." The soldier nodded slowly, then closed his eyes. Back on the bridge, the scanners picked up a strange signal. Rael leaned forward. "Commander, new data. A strange pulse. Repeating. It's not from our systems. Not from the enemy either." "What is it?" asked Xeraxa. "It's unknown." Rain stepped closer. "Let me see." He studied the pulse. It was a code, but not like normal language. It was a pattern. He traced it on the screen. His face went pale. "This isn't random," he said. "It's a warning." Xeraxa raised an eyebrow. "A warning from who?" Rain replied slowly. "Not from your enemy. From something older, something hidden." Just then, the lights flickered. A cold wind blew across the room, inside a sealed ship. Xeraxa looked around sharply. What was that? The crew froze. They felt it too. A strange energy filled the ship, like invisible eyes watching them. "Shields up," Xeraxa ordered. All ships battle-ready mode, but it was too late. A silent wave hit them, not a weapon, not fire, but something that shut down every system, like a virus through their technology. One by one, lights died. Screens turned black. The Vatarek floated helpless in the dark. And then, from the window, they saw it. A massive black shape, not like any known ship, moved through the stars. No lights, no sound, just darkness and power. Rain's face turned cold. "This is not your enemy. This is a hunter." Xeraxa whispered, "What have we awakened?" The dark ship didn't attack. It just passed by and left behind a trail of dead systems. Rain checked the scanner again. It sent a signal, one word. Xeraxa leaned forward. "What word?" He showed her. It said, "Observer. Trial begins." She didn't understand, but Rain did. This wasn't a battle, it was a test, and we failed. That night, in the quiet of her command chamber, Xeraxa sat in the dark. She looked at her hands. The hands that had commanded victories for years now felt weak. A soft knock. Rain entered. She didn't speak. He didn't either. After a long pause, she said, "How do you stay calm even now?" Rain answered, "Because I've been through worse, and because panic never helps. Thought does." She looked at him. Her pride still burned, but another feeling was growing. One she hated. Respect. We're not done yet, she said. No, Rain replied. But next time, let's not lose before the fight begins. Syraxa nodded once. Outside, the stars burned, quietly. But something had changed. The real threat was coming, and it wasn't what any of them expected. The confrontation fear spreads faster than fire. Even though the alien fleet had escaped destruction, a deeper problem now poisoned the halls of the ship. It wasn't damage, it wasn't broken systems, it was doubt. Doubt in their leader. Commander, Syraxa, once untouchable, now walked through her ship like a shadow. Her eyes avoided her crew. Her voice had lost its thunder. Every hallway she passed turned quiet. Every whisper was about her, and the human, Rain, the one who had spoken warnings and been ignored, the one who had saved lives, while she lost them. And now the crew was wondering, who should truly lead? The meeting room was full. Officers from every ship in the fleet had gathered. Rahel stood tall beside Syraxa, but his loyalty had cracks. His face was calm, but his fingers twitched. Something inside him was shifting. Syraxa stepped forward to speak, but Rain stood up first. That alone shocked the room. He didn't ask for permission. He simply said, I know what you're all thinking. Silence. You followed Syraxa into Sector 9 because you trusted her strength. That was not wrong. But strength means nothing without understanding. Pride means nothing if it gets soldiers killed. Syraxa's eyes burned. You speak as if you're the commander now. Rain turned to her calmly. I don't want to lead, I want to survive. The room stayed still. Then Rain placed a small device on the table. It lit up with a new signal, the same one from the unknown dark ship. This code didn't come from our enemy, it came from something much older, something watching us, judging us. Syraxa crossed her arms. And what does this have to do with me? Rain looked her in the eye. It means your war is not the only war happening, and your decisions may have brought something bigger down on all of us, the officers murmured. Then a loud noise cut through the tension. A screen blinked. On behind them, it showed a video feed from a hidden camera inside the war room. Everyone turned to look. In the video, Syraxa was shouting, ignoring Rain, dismissing warnings. The final words hit hard. I don't care what the human says. I will not retreat from insects. Her own words, played in front of her crew. Betrayal. Someone had recorded her and released the footage. Gasps filled the room. One officer stood. You put our lives at risk. Another added, we lost my brother on the Kralkon. He begged for retreat. Syraxa's claws clenched. Who released this video? No one answered, but eyes turned away from her. Then Rael spoke. His voice was soft. Maybe it's time we listen to the human. The room went silent. Syraxa turned toward him slowly. You dare speak against me? He didn't move. I speak for the living, not for pride. Her breath grew sharp. Suddenly she stepped forward, drawing her blade, but Rain moved faster. He stood between them, unarmed. No more blood, he said. Everyone froze. Syraxa stared at him, this weak-looking human, standing without fear between two warriors. You protect him now, Rael, she growled. Rael said nothing. Rain spoke again. You're not angry because I'm wrong, you're angry because I was right. The blade trembled in her hand, and then slowly, she lowered it. No one clapped. No one cheered. But something changed. She looked around and saw it clearly. She had lost their faith. Later, in the silence of the war map room, Syraxa stared at the stars. Her reflection in the glass looked tired, smaller than before. Rain entered, holding a data pad. I'm not here to fight, he said. She nodded without looking. You already won. He stepped beside her. This isn't about winning. It's about surviving what's coming. She looked at him finally. Tell me what you think is out there. Rain showed her the pad. It had a map. Lines, signals, patterns. 3 fleets have vanished in the last 2 weeks, not destroyed, just erased. No wreckage, no distress call. She read quietly. Then why are we still alive? Rain's voice lowered. Because we're being watched, judged, tested. Syraxa whispered. By who? Rain looked her in the eyes. Not who. What? The retreat plan, some leaders fall in silence. Others fall in fire. Syraxa fell with a whisper and woke up in pain. The explosion had torn through the lower deck during a systems check. No warning, no enemy ship, just a sudden pulse and fire. Her body was thrown against the wall, her armor cracked, her pride shattered further. Now she lay on a recovery bed, not as a commander, but as a patient. Rain stood beside her, arms crossed. You were lucky, he said. You broke 2 ribs, could have been worse. Syraxa gritted her teeth. This wasn't an accident. Rain nodded. I know. She sat up slowly. Sabotage? He answered quietly. Yes. Someone from inside. Maybe someone who wants you gone. Her fists tightened. I built this fleet. I trained this crew. I gave them victory. And now they want me dead? Rain didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, They don't want you dead. They want to live. And right now, they don't believe you can help them do that. Syraxa turned away. Rain stepped closer. But I can, if you let me. She stared at him with sharp eyes. You think I'll give you control? He shook his head. Not control. Just trust. One chance. 30 minutes later, the emergency council gathered in the command room. The air was thick with tension. Rain stood before the crew, not as a human outsider, but as the last hope. We can't stay here, he said. That dark ship, the Observer, it's watching us, studying us. If we stay, it will finish what it started. Some officers nodded, others looked unsure. We jump back to the asteroid tunnels near the Dinar Belt, Rain continued. It's unstable, yes, but it's the only way to lose the Observer's signal. A pilot raised her hand. The Dinar Belt hasn't been mapped in decades. What if we crash? Rain replied, Then we crash running, not waiting. Another officer whispered, At least he has a plan. From the back, Syraxa entered. She was limping, her armor scratched, her pride scarred, but her voice was strong. I approve the retreat. Gasps echoed in the room. She walked to the center and stood beside Rain. Listen to him, she said. This time, I will too. The officers exchanged looks, and then, one by one, they nodded. The retreat began. Ships turned slowly. Engines warmed. The fleet moved like tired animals through the void. Inside the Vatarik, Rain guided the ship through a narrow energy lane that only he seemed to understand. This path shouldn't exist, one navigator said. It does now. Rain replied. The Observer left it open on purpose. It wants us to run. Why? Syraxa asked. Because it wants to see where we go, what we do. It wants to learn. She narrowed her eyes. Like prey? Rain shook his head. Like students. As the ships reached the edge of the Dinar Belt, alarms began to scream. The asteroid field had shifted. Massive rocks floated like silent giants, crashing into each other, turning slowly in empty space. No clear path, the pilot said. We'll be crushed. Rain leaned over the console. Run simulations, overlay the gravity paths. Look, for the rhythm. The pilot stared at him. What rhythm? He replied. The one only chaos can make. Syraxa watched him. You've done this before, haven't you? Rain gave her a strange look. No. But my people once tried to escape something like this. Only a few made it out. I was one of them. She asked quietly. What happened to the rest? He didn't answer. The ships began to move. Rain's voice guided them like a calm wave. Left 6 degrees, now full boost. Hold steady, now down. The fleet twisted through narrow gaps between spinning rocks. Every second felt like death was a breath away. One wrong turn, one delay, and they'd all be vapor. Shiraxa sat in silence, watching the human work. No panic, no fear, only focus. For the first time she saw what her pride had blinded her from. Rain wasn't weak. He was surviving in a way no warrior ever taught her, not with claws, but with clarity. Finally, the last ship passed through the final gap. The asteroid field faded behind them. Alarms went quiet. They were safe. For now. In the quiet of the control deck, Shiraxa stood beside Rain. "You saved us again." Rain replied, "Not alone. You gave the order." She gave a small nod. "You were right about everything." "No," he said. "Just about the things that matter." She looked at him. "So what now?" He stared at the dark space ahead. "Now, we plan because the observer is still watching, and next time it won't just watch." The human strategy victory sometimes comes with explosions. Other time, it walks in quietly, wearing the face of the one you once ignored. Commander Shiraxa sat in the center of the strategy room, staring at a large black screen. It showed the empty star map, silent, dark, and full of unknown threats. But this time she wasn't alone at the head of the table. Rain sat beside her, not behind her, beside her. It was the first time any human had ever shared equal command on a Zarkathi warship. Outside the ship, the fleet rested in a quiet zone behind the Dinar asteroid belt. Systems were slowly repairing. Weapons were back online. Morale was low but breathing. Everyone was waiting, and so was the enemy. The crew believed a new attack was coming, but Rain believed something worse. "It won't come like before," he said calmly. "It won't use lasers or missiles. It will use our own fear." Shiraxa raised an eyebrow. "Fear doesn't destroy ships." Rain looked at her. "Yes, it does, if the fear comes from inside." He placed a small hologram on the table. It showed images from the last lost fleets. No battle damage, no distress calls, just systems that turned off. Soldiers that vanished. "We're not fighting ships," he said. "We're fighting an intelligence that learns from every mistake we make." Shiraxa leaned forward. "So how do we fight something like that?" Rain's voice dropped low. "We stop acting like soldiers and start thinking like survivors." That day, Rain began teaching the alien officers something new. Not how to fight, but how to think differently. He split them into teams. No weapons, no tech, only questions. What would you do if you lost all power? What if the enemy read your mind? What if retreat was the only way to win? At first, the Zarkathi warriors were confused, angry. They were raised for combat, not riddles. But slowly, something shifted. One officer, once proud and loud, whispered, "He's not training us for war. He's training us for something deeper." Rain smiled. That was the point. Meanwhile, Shiraxa watched from the upper deck. She still didn't fully trust him, but she couldn't deny the results. Her crew, broken and afraid too, days ago, was now talking, planning, even laughing again. Rain wasn't just rebuilding their strategy, he was rebuilding their will. But the observer was not sleeping. It sent another message. This time, it spoke in their language. A voice echoed across every ship. "You are adapting. Good. Let's see how far you'll go before you break." Then, one of the fleet's cruisers exploded. No warning, no sound, just fire, and the message ended with 2 words. "Test begins." Panic spread. Shiraxa rushed to the command deck. "Rain, what do we do?" Rain didn't panic. He looked at the remains of the ship on the screen. "They're watching how we respond." "So we attack?" she asked. "No," he said. "We trick them." Rain quickly formed a plan. He ordered all ships to look weaker, to shut down major systems on purpose, to float like they were damaged, to act like easy prey. The observer would believe the fleet was broken, but in the shadows, Rain hid 2 small scout ships, fully powered and ready to scan the observer's tech. "We make them. Look at one hand," he told Shiraxa, while the other hand holds the knife. The fleet played its part perfectly. Systems dimmed. Weapons went cold. Messages stopped. The enemy ship returned, gliding toward them like a giant shadow. It moved closer and closer. Inside the control room, no one breathed. Rain whispered, "Not yet. Not yet." And then, now. He gave the signal. The hidden scouts launched fast and silent, flying under the enemy ship's radar. They scanned it from below, recording everything. Power signatures, heat trails, movement cycles. In 40 seconds, they returned. The observer didn't react, but it left again. Without attacking, Syraxa stared at the data. "What did we just see?" Rain replied, "Its brain, its pattern, and now, its weakness." Later that night, Syraxa visited Rain alone. "You fought without weapons today," she said. "You made us look weak, and won." Rain nodded. "That's the human strategy." She looked at him for a long moment and then quietly said, "Teach me more." Rain looked up. "You ready to unlearn everything?" "I'm ready to win," she replied. The truth revealed. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is not a laser or a bomb. It's a secret, and on this quiet day, floating deep beyond the Denar belt, that secret finally came for Commander Syraxa. It arrived in the form of an old message, encrypted, forgotten, hidden inside her ship's own systems. Rain found it while reviewing the scan data from the observer ship. At first it looked like static noise, but then he noticed a small signature in the signal, one that matched the Zarkathi Empire's high command. He didn't open it right away. He went to Syraxa first. She sat alone in her private chamber, staring at a map of empty stars. Rain entered, slowly. "I found something," he said. She didn't look up. "Another warning?" He placed the data chip on the table. "More like a truth you weren't supposed to know." She finally looked at him, her eyes tired, her pride quieter now. "What is it?" Rain stared at her. "A message from your father." Silence. She stood up slowly. "My father died in the Second Corps War." Rain shook his head. "No. He vanished. That's what they told you." He pushed the chip toward her. "This message was sent from a classified command ship, just days before the war began." Syraxa hesitated, then she activated the message. A hologram appeared. It was her father, General Vorix, strong, proud, but his eyes were filled with something rare in Zarkathi leaders: regret. "To whoever finds this, especially if it is you, my daughter, know this: the war was a lie. We started it not because we had to, but because the Council wanted control. Fear brings power. And so we created fear. We attacked colonies, blamed enemies, even silenced our own who questioned it. But in our hunger, we woke something older, something we did not understand. The observer is not a weapon, it is a judgment, and we have failed its test before. If it returns, it will not stop. It watches not with anger, but with disappointment. Survive, my daughter, but not with war, with truth." The message ended. The room was silent. Syraxa's hands shook. Rain waited. She whispered, "All this time, I thought he died with honor. But he ran from guilt." Rain said gently, "No, he left you a map." She looked at him, eyes filled with something new, pain mixed with clarity. "What do I do now?" Rain replied. "You tell them the truth." The next day, Syraxa stood before the full crew. She showed them the message. Some gasped, some growled in anger. But no one spoke against her. "I believed in war because I was raised in it," she said. "But war without truth is just destruction. I see that now." She looked at Rain, then back at her soldiers. "We are not just fighters. We are thinkers, survivors, builders, and we will not play the Council's game anymore." Her crew stood silent, then slowly began to nod. Rain stepped forward. "We have one chance, one moment. If we act now with what we've learned, we can turn the observer's next move against it. That night in the control room, Siraxa sat beside Rain again. Her voice was low. "Why do you keep helping me?" Rain didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because I've seen my people make the same mistakes and I didn't stop them in time." He looked at her. "But maybe I can help you stop yours." She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, the warrior was still there. But something else had joined it. Wisdom. Outside, the fleet formed into new positions, this time, not for war, but for a message, a trap of light and code, shaped by truth because now they knew. The observer didn't fear weapons, it feared understanding, and finally Siraxa understood who the real enemy was. Not the dark ship, but the lies she was taught to obey. The redemption doesn't come in victory. It comes in the choice to become better, even if the universe is watching. Commander Siraxa once believed strength was everything, but now, as she stood on the command deck, she realized something greater. Strength means nothing without change. The observer had returned. The black ship floated in front of them again, silent, endless, and patient. It had watched their retreat, their fear, their learning, and now it came for the final test. Siraxa stood beside Rain. This time she was not here to fight it blindly. She was here to face it with truth. Rain stepped forward first. He opened the encrypted signal line. His voice was steady. "We know who you are now, and we understand why you came." There was no reply, just silence. Then a single word appeared on the screen. "Show." Rain looked to Siraxa. She gave a small nod, and then she spoke. Not as a warrior, not as a commander, but as a leader. "We were raised in lies," she said. "We were told that fear brings order, that war brings peace. We followed those lies, until we lost more than we can count." She paused. "But now we choose something else. We choose to stop the war, to teach our people what we learned. We don't ask you to forgive us. We only ask you to see us, trying." The lights on the observer ship flickered. Then something strange happened. It sent back a signal, not in words but in memories. Images flooded their screens, pictures of civilizations before them, advanced, proud, powerful, all gone, one after another. Erased not by war but by repeating their mistakes, and in the final image, they saw their own fleet, fading away in silence. Rain understood. They don't destroy with weapons. They destroy by letting us destroy ourselves. Siraxa whispered. "Unless we change." Rain stood tall. "Then we pass your test with action, not promises." He activated the fleet's new signal array. The data they had uncovered, the lies from the council, the message from Siraxa's father, the truth about the war, was sent out across the galaxy, unfiltered, unstoppable. The truth was free now, and so were they. The observer ship didn't attack. It simply turned and vanished into the stars. The test was over, and for the first time, the Zarkathi fleet wasn't broken by battle. They were reborn by truth. Later, Siraxa looked out the window of her ship. Peaceful stars blinked quietly. Rain joined her. "You did it," he said. She shook her head. "We did it." She turned to him, her voice softer than ever before. "You once said you didn't want to lead, just survive." Rain nodded. "And now?" she asked. He smiled. "Now, I want to help others do the same." She smiled too, not wide, not proud, just honest. The first honest smile she'd given in years. And in that moment, across the galaxy, something changed. Not a system, not a law, but a legacy. Because once, she had refused the humans' advice. But now, she had built a future with it.